Every next era begins with a moment of honesty, and maybe this is yours. Welcome to the next era. I'm Faiza Baldonado, life design strategist, growth mentor, and founder of the next era. And this is the space where we slow things down enough to think clearly about who you are now, what season you're in, and what actually fits. So if you're ready to build from clarity instead of pressure, you're in the right place. All right, something different today. And I'll be honest, because I have been sitting with whether to say this out loud for a while, but here it is. It's a declaration. And it is that I am the case study. And I don't say that lightly, because I believe every person has everything that they need to live a life that is genuinely theirs. And it's not the kind of life that makes sense on paper for everybody else, but the life that is yours, the one that fits, the one that came from the inside out. My job has never been to give you the answers. It's to create enough space for you to hear the ones that you already have. And today I want to show you exactly where that belief came from, because everything I've shared across the first 4 episodes, the little girl learning to belong, the share house, the body that just stopped moving, the life that needed designing, the patterns that Myelination helped me to understand, all of it has been pointing to here, to this. The work I do doesn't come from a textbook. It comes from living that exact experience that I help women to navigate. And today I wanted to connect all of the dots properly, because I do think that it's time. See, what I've noticed across every woman that I've worked with, and I mean every single one, is that there is always external noise. The demands, all the responsibilities, all the people who need things from you, that is real, and it's a lot. But underneath all of that, and sometimes louder than all of that, is the internal noise. That mental tab that just never closes. Like, did I make the right call? Is this actually what I want? Or is it just what I've always done? Why can't I just decide? Why can't I just make a decision? And why does something feel off when everything looks fine? You know, that noise is cumulative, it's invisible, and it's exhausting in a way that's often hard to explain to someone who doesn't feel it. And I want to say something carefully here and mindfully, respectfully, because it matters. What I'm describing is not a replacement for professional support. If there's something in you that's telling you that you need a therapist, a doctor, or a deeper clinical conversation, please listen to that and please go. This episode is not a reason to skip that. But for the woman I'm specifically talking about right now, the one who is self-aware, who has done the work, who shows up fully for everyone around her, that noise is usually not evidence of something that is broken. I believe, and what I've seen is that it is clarity trying to get through. And when she finally creates enough space to hear it, that's when everything changes, it shifts. And that's the first thing that my program Ascension creates, not by removing her life, but by creating this container inside of it. And here's something that I don't usually say publicly. Over years of working with women, I started to notice a pattern. Many of the women I work with had been told or had started to wonder themselves whether something was wrong with how they were wired. And I want to be very mindful and careful here as well, because I'm not a clinician and I'm not making clinical claims, but what I observed was this. For the women that I work with, the struggle isn't usually about something that's, being fundamentally wrong. It's about operating in a world that rewards this constant output while also being deeply thoughtful, highly sensitive to quality, genuinely caring about doing things well, and carrying an enormous amount, a huge load. The system they were living inside was asking more of them than any system should. And they were meeting that demand every single day until the cost started showing up. Not always in a breakdown, but I've been there. Sometimes it was just in a quiet, persistent feeling of, I'm doing everything and I still cannot get to what matters. The feeling of doing everything and still not getting to what matters. And that's not usually about capability. It's about direction. And those are completely different conversations. And what I've learned is that you cannot solve that with strategy alone or mindset work alone or spiritual practice alone. It takes all of it, the science and the soul, the strategy and the stillness, because she is a whole person and she deserves a whole approach. And that distinction changes everything about what she actually needs. And I want to tell you what ascension actually is, not the way that it reads on my website, but the way that it actually feels. Ascension is 8 weeks. It's one conversation at a time. And in those conversations, women say things out loud that they have never said to anyone. Not their partner, not their closest friend, not their therapist, not their colleague. It's things they couldn't say because perhaps the relationship was too close or too professional or just too loaded with history. So in Ascension, they get a space that is none of those things. And something happens in that space that I want to describe carefully because it surprises people. You know, women often come in so ready to be efficient, ready to give me the headline version of what's going on, the beautiful version, the perfectly said version, and I just let them talk. And I let them go where they need to go. The tangents, the stories, the apologies, the sorry, this is probably not relevant, but it is always relevant because here's what I have learned. That the first answer is rarely the real answer. It's the managed answer, the one she's rehearsed, the one that sounds acceptable. The real answer usually lives a few layers underneath that. It's like an iceberg. Like what you see on the surface is what she's been able to articulate so far, but underneath all of that, there is so much more. And the only way to get there is just to keep going. And for me to keep listening, to not interrupt, to just be a guardrail, not redirect too soon, to trust that she will arrive at the truth if you give her enough space and enough safety to just keep moving toward it. And she always does, every single time. She arrives at something she has never said out loud before or realized. And in that moment, she doesn't need me to tell her what it means because she already knows. And that knowing, that is the real work. Not what I bring into the room. What she discovers is already within her. I just know how to hold the space long enough for her to find it. And what does get built through the process is something that no framework can ever manufacture. And that is self-trust. The quiet internal knowing that says, I can hear myself. I can trust what I hear. And I do know what to do with it. That is the foundation that everything else is built on. It's not the insights or the clarity or the direction. It's the trust in herself to act on all of it. This is what changes a woman's life. And I built Ascension because I needed it. before it existed, before I had the framework, before I had the language for any of this, I was the woman sitting on the floor crying into my dog's fur because that was the only place I felt completely still. I went back to work before my body was ready, and it's not because I had to, but because I didn't know who I was if I wasn't useful. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that resonate? I didn't know who I was if I wasn't useful. I was the woman who understood people deeply, who held space for everyone around her, kept every environment running smoothly, and privately wondered why she felt so far from herself. You know, I started working at 14. I've had so many job titles, more than most people have had jobs in corporate, in healthcare, project management, business owner, entrepreneur, coach, strategist, blended mama, the one everyone calls when things break and shiz goes down. You call me. I moved countries, started businesses, built teams, navigated grief, and rebuilt myself more than once, more than I can probably count. And through all of it, there was a version of me that was just quietly waiting. And not for the right moment, but just for when things calm down, and just honestly waiting to be heard. The work that I do is what I wish I had existed earlier. Yeah. Not the frameworks, not the tools, but that space. That specific kind of space where a capable woman can finally stop managing how she appears and just think clearly about what she actually needs. That's what I built. That's what ascension is. And that's why I say that I am the case study, because the woman sitting across from me in every session, I know her, not professionally, but personally, because that woman is me. And I built this for us. In episode 4, I talked about myelination. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, just a very quick note on what it actually is, because I know it sounds a little bit sciencey, that word. So I just want you to think of it like this around myelination and what that is. So imagine a path through a field, and the first time you walk it, you're pushing through really tall grass. It's slow, it takes effort, but walk that same path every day, and eventually this track appears, then a clear path, and then it becomes the easiest path that you know. Your brain works exactly the same way. Every time you repeat a thought, a behavior, a response, your brain wraps this layer of insulation around that pathway, and that insulation is myelin. And it makes that pathway faster, smoother, more automatic, which is awesome when the pathway is something that you actually want. And it's really worth understanding when it isn't. Because here's what I've observed. Many of the patterns that capable women are living on autopilot weren't chosen. They were learned. They were repeated so many times that they became the default. Like the pattern of saying yes when they mean not yet. The pattern of managing everyone's emotion while quietly ignoring their own. The pattern of measuring their worth by how much they can carry. The pattern of staying busy, not because there's actually so much to do, but because stillness feels unsafe. It's unfamiliar. And those patterns have myelin around them. They feel completely natural, which is exactly what makes them so hard to see. And the work of ascension is partly the work of building all these new pathways, new ways of deciding, new ways of responding, new ways of measuring what a good day actually looks like for you. Not overnight, but consistently, until the new way starts to feel as natural as the old one did. That's when something has truly changed, not just in behavior, but in identity. The woman who came in running an old story leaves operating from a new one. The one that she chose, the one that actually fits who she is now, not who she built herself to be in a different season. And I want to name what I mean by that. Life design. It isn't a planning exercise. It's not a goal list. I believe it is the integration of everything, the science and the soul, the strategy and the stillness, all of it working beautifully together, because you are a whole person and you deserve a whole approach. That is the next era. That is what everything I built is founded in. And I want to leave you with something today. And it's not a question to sit with, it's something to carry, okay? If you are the woman who functions brilliantly on the outside and is privately wondering why you still feel so far from yourself, I want you to know something. That gap that you feel, that sense that something doesn't fit anymore, even though you can't fully name it, that is usually not a sign that something is wrong. It's more often a sign that you've grown and the way that you've been operating just hasn't caught up yet. That's not a problem, okay? That is an invitation. A real invitation to slow down long enough to hear what you actually already know, because you know, you have always known. You just haven't had the quiet to hear it clearly. So give yourself that quiet, even today, even for 5 minutes. It's not about indulgence. It's the beginning, your beginning. This work isn't about becoming someone different. It is about coming home to yourself clearly enough so you can move forward from that place with that clarity in this era. So, if something in this episode has landed for you, resonated, connected you to something real in yourself, I would love you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've been sitting there with the idea of ascension, the first step is a strategy session. And if you're curious, you'll find everything you need in the link in my bio. And if you're earlier in the journey, if you want to do this work at your own pace first, I've got something special about to launch. The next era experience is about to open up. So stay close, because I will announce the dates soon and the details will be put up in the link in my bio. And until then, I'm Faiza Baldonado. This is the next era. I'm so glad you're here listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.